Hello, everybody. Welcome to what we're calling Wrangling the Cloud. This is going to be a 90-minute webinar on a few of the features that we feel are really useful, especially as how they apply to extension. Before we get started, we should probably do some introductions. My name is Dwayne Hyatt. I am a systems administrator at the University of Florida, and I've been supporting our land grant mission for about 10 years now, specializing in extension and research and server management of those locations here in the very hot and sunny state of Florida. We have been on what's called a digital transformation journey for the last few years, where we have migrated a lot of our extension programs into the cloud, meaning there's no more network drives and folder shares and stuff like that. All of the data has been moved into Microsoft Teams and into Microsoft OneDrive. So we wanted to share a little bit of that love from Florida for the cloud with everyone else. My partner here on the call, this is Joe. How are you doing, Joe?
Hey, good. Thank you. Yeah, I'm Joe Gasper. I'm also with University of Florida in our Institute of Food and Agricultural Sciences department. Another sysadmin, but been with the university a number of years and with IFAS for about 5 now. In the last few years, it's really been a pleasure kind of working with our extension agents, learning and observing the work they do for the citizens in our state. Some of the struggles, and some of the struggles they go through to get their work done. And that's where Dwayne and I have switched a lot of our focus to modern work and enabling and empowering our agents with a suite of tools they already had access to, but no one was showing them how to find or use them. We've been told we've been successful in assisting many of our agents in modernizing how they get work done. We have a passion for extension. This webinar and a training community we run are part of the work we do, helping our agents meet the extension mission. Dwayne, let's get started.
Yeah, let's do it. So what we're going to teach you today is a few things. But before we get started, we kind of titled this webinar Wrangling the Cloud and Becoming a Digital Agent. And we kind of, I don't know if digital agent is a real thing or not. If it's not, then it started here. Who knows? But basically, what we are envisioning for you is becoming in tune with the technology that's available to you. It will make you more nimble. It will give you more access to your data. It will give your clientele more access to you. And so embracing these tools, we feel like is what really is going to be at the root of becoming that digital agent. So let me get my screen shared here and we'll get started. All right, so the first few things that we're going to cover 3 main topics. We are going to cover cloud file storage inside of Microsoft OneDrive, and we'll break that down to cover the specific features of OneDrive. We're going to talk about collaborating on files inside of Microsoft Teams. This is how you work with your peers, both inside or outside of your university. The scope here is huge. Microsoft Teams is kind of a big deal. It does 100 different things, but we are going to specifically focus on files inside of Microsoft Teams. And then finally, we're going to cover a really important tool that will make you more accessible to your clientele, and that is Microsoft Bookings. Microsoft Bookings is a part of the Office 365 platform, and it allows you to create a publicly accessible scheduling portal so that you can offer services and your clientele can book time with you. So we've got some cool use cases for that, I think, that we're going to cover. So let's kick it off by talking about Microsoft OneDrive. A lot of confusion in our journeys, Joe. Like we've had people use OneDrive and Teams and SharePoint, and they say all those things kind of interchangeably, right? But we kind of broke it down to simplify it a little bit more for our users, where we say the stuff that you put in OneDrive is yours. It belongs to you. You have the option to share that stuff with other folks, but really remember who owns that data. Anything you put in OneDrive is owned by you specifically.
And that might be similar to a traditional network share, where you have a user drive that is only permission to yourself. So this OneDrive is sort of the cloud version of that.
Exactly. The next thing that we're going to talk about, whoops, is one file, one place. This is a concept that someone inside UF kind of coined, and more or less what it boils down to is, rather than creating copies of files, we've all been in those email attachment type strings of communication where files are going back and forth, and someone's put their initials on the end of the file, or it says V1 to version 12 final draft, whatever. The one file, one place mentality is really going to simplify how that process works. That file can live in your OneDrive, and you can give people access to that singular file in a multitude of ways and make sure that everybody's working on the same file. Part of that is going to be through sharing files. So we're going to show some of the ways that you can share files with anybody in the world. You can do this through Outlook Online, or I'm sorry, OneDrive Online, Outlook. You can do it through File Explorer using the OneDrive app on your computer. So we're going to cover a few of those things. And related to the one file, one place point, collaborative authoring is great. Just kind of like in your own room or wherever you are, like think to yourself, if you've ever tried to open a file that was on a network share and somebody else already had it open, you got a message that said that the file was currently locked and you weren't able to edit it, right? So as soon as one person had that file open, nobody else could jump into it.
And
So
that
that
person's gone for a long vacation or something like
yeah,
that. And you're
yeah.
trying to
Usually
track
they go on
down.
break. Good point. The collaborative authoring that you get with the Office 365 platform means that you can have more than one person inside of a file at a time, and you are editing that file live with several other authors. Joe, we had a fun experiment once with Excel. We were in a demonstration for one of our extension districts, and we had a decent sized audience. 45 or 50 people were there in person back when we were doing in-person trainings, and we had all of them inside of the same Excel file at the same time. And it was
It
a
didn't
lot of
fall
fun.
over, a bit of a hot
Yeah.
mess, but it works.
Yeah, it was just to prove the point. I wouldn't suggest having 50 people in an Excel document at the same time, but it did work. The next thing is good. We're going to talk about file safety and the resiliency that you get when you move into the cloud. I know our agents, and I know a lot of them are running around with an external hard drive in their backpack, or all of their files are stored on their desktop on their laptop computer or at their office, or they're copying stuff back and forth all the time. That's dangerous. I mean, if you lost that thumb drive, or if you lost that external hard drive, or your laptop took a dive in a lake, who knows what, where would your stuff be? So we're going to show you some of the accessibility options you have as far as like getting to your stuff using OneDrive, and some of the resiliency that you get when you put files up there and start allowing more people to collaborate with you on those files. And like I said earlier, we're going to talk a little bit about doing better than just regular Outlook attachments. We're going to show you how to integrate Microsoft Outlook and Microsoft OneDrive together so that you can send people quote unquote attachments, but they're actually a link to a file in OneDrive, so that you can live by that one file, one place mentality. And I know metrics are important to our agents. They want to know if they shared something, how many people looked at it. That's also really good confirmation to understand how effective was that campaign that you had, that email that you sent out. We do this when we let somebody know that we're coming to a research center and we're doing a big project. Here's an attachment, a flyer that shows what we're going to be doing. Well, I can look at the metrics of how many unique people have viewed that file to get an understanding of, did they read what I sent? Did they read the instruction manual? So that kind of stuff is pretty important. And then we're gonna share, but we're gonna share backwards. There's a really cool feature inside of Microsoft OneDrive called Request Files, where if you're collecting, we saw this recently for the Extension Conference in Florida, the Extension Professional Associations of Florida Conference, where they sent out a link that said, send me a copy of your poster or send me a copy of your presentation. And so you can send a link out that is designed to collect files from other people. They have no visibility into the other files that are inside of that folder. All they see is a link with an upload box. So Joe, you ready? We'll get started talking about OneDrive. So we always tell our users where you want to start with anything in Office 365 is office.com. That is by far the easiest thing to remember. All this stuff that you're doing is Office, whether it be in the cloud or on your computer. And so if you're opening up a web browser, you're going to want to head over to office.com. From office.com, we have this little cute thing up here that we call the waffle. It looks like a waffle. And it's also called the app launcher, but we're going to go with waffle because it sounds better. From there, you're going to see a multitude of apps that are all available in the Office system. The ones that we're going to concentrate on today are OneDrive, Teams, and Bookings. When I open up my OneDrive, this is the web view of everything that's stored inside of my OneDrive. Again, all of these files belong to me specifically. They don't belong to anybody else. This is my personal storage location. Joe, you get a considerable amount of space by default, right?
Yeah, likely your university, if they've done a little bit of work, you're going to get 5 terabytes initially in your OneDrive.
That's a lot. That's
Quite a number of
5,000
DVDs.
gigs. Yeah, that's a whole mess of space. So the other way that you can experience OneDrive is through the app on your computer. So you can see that I've got a little app running down here by my clock. The OneDrive app is actually built into Windows 10 and Windows 11. So if you're running those, you probably already have it on your computer. If not, you can click the start menu and type in OneDrive, and you'll have the OneDrive app come up. If you haven't signed in before, you'll have to go through that process. However, your university might have it configured so that you can log in and access OneDrive. But once you do that, you'll have OneDrive show up here. And if you take a look, I've got the same exact stuff. Let me sort this by A to Z. And you'll see I've got the same exact stuff here as I have over here. If I make a file, so I'm going to make a new Word document. We'll call this a demo document. And I'll open up this file. And I'll edit some text. Notice Office is automatically saving it for me as soon as I completed typing. That's because we're using a cloud storage location. And I'll close out of it. So we've got demo document. Go over here and refresh. And there's my demo document. So this is called a sync. Whatever you do in your OneDrive folder here is going to synchronize up to the cloud. So there's going to be a copy in both places. Joe, does this fall into the one file, one place? You know, how would you describe this relationship between OneDrive on your computer and OneDrive as it relates like to the web-based version in the cloud?
I think we're going to be able to still work with the one file, one location. This is sort of just a view into those files, just a different way to see it, either view through your web browser or view through your Explorer. And while you're there, those icons kind of change different colors. You can zoom in on those. Kind of interesting that some look like a cloud and some look like a green circle with a checkbox.
Yeah, so we've got a cloud here. A cloud means that file exists in my OneDrive, and I guess this one's probably a better example. So this document lives inside of my OneDrive, but I haven't downloaded it to my computer just yet. Versus that document that we just created, it has a little green check mark on it, which means that file, however big it is actually on the hard drive of my computer, and any changes that I make to it are going to synchronize up to the cloud. So if we go back out here, let me zoom out again. If I right click on this file called document, and we go to the properties, you're going to see that the size on my disk is 0 kilobytes, which is nothing. And the actual size of the file itself is 10.2 kilobytes, which is really still small. But imagine it was, I don't know, 100 gigs or something big. Now, if I go and I look at that other file, this demo document here, and show more options, properties, you'll see that there's a little bit of a difference. The size on my disk is roughly the same size as what Microsoft says the file is in the cloud. This is a really good feature. So Joe said earlier that your OneDrive can consume, or your OneDrive capacity could be up to 5 terabytes of space probably out of the box. It just depends on how your university has it set up. I don't know how many people have a 5 terabyte hard drive in their computer. Probably not a lot. So imagine you were using a small device like a small laptop, and you connected your OneDrive to it, and it immediately started to download all of the files that were in your OneDrive. That would be a not very good situation. That would not only use a lot of your internet speed. Hopefully, you've got a decent connection at your extension office. You were pretty rural here in Florida, so I know we've got a lot of situations where the offices don't have the best internet, and it would also fill up your hard drive. So this feature is called Files on Demand. It is turned on. Let's go ahead and go into the settings of my OneDrive, and where are we at here? Files on Demand. So download files as you use them. So that is on by default, and it's fantastic. That means that this file right here doesn't exist on my hard drive until I click it. As soon as I click it, it's going to download. And now I've got that little green check mark. Now, let's say you were working with a folder that you needed to make sure was always on your hard drive. So I've got a very important application here inside of this folder, and I want to make sure that I keep this on my hard drive at all times. Maybe you're going to be disconnected for a while. Maybe you're going to be on a flight and you're going to have no internet, or maybe you're going to be in a remote area where you're going to be offline for a while. Well, prior to leaving, all you need to do is right click on that and say always keep on this device, and you're going to see that icon is going to change. Well, maybe try a different one. There we go. It changed. It just took a second. Solid green check mark. So now you have all three icons available here to view. We've got a cloud, which means it's there, but it's not on your hard drive yet. We've got the light green check mark, which means it's on your hard drive because you clicked it. And then we've got that solid green check mark, which means you proactively made the decision to tell OneDrive to download everything that was in that folder.
That can help maybe reduce that feeling, that need to have that USB key with you all times with those important files. That can help you, guarantee you've got the latest files that you've been working on that device that you're carrying around with you instead.
Exactly. Yeah. This lets you be in control of what you have on your laptop's hard drive. Let's say you're done. You're done with that data. So I no longer need these two files on my computer anymore, or maybe it's an entire folder that's got a lot of stuff in it. All you have to do is select it, right mouse click on it, and say free up space. When you free up that space, it's going to remove the file from your hard drive, but it's going to leave it in the cloud. So it still looks like it's there, but notice now that that icon has changed. It's no longer that light green check mark. Now it's just a little empty cloud, which means it's a cloud side file. And if you ever wanted it back, all you'd have to do is double click on it and it would re-download it. This is a great way to recover some space. Maybe you're working on a device with a really small hard drive. You have the flexibility to juggle around what works for you and what you need at that time. Maybe it's a project that's no longer active. You can go ahead and free up that space off of your hard drive. Joe, you ready to move into sharing?
Yeah, let's go through some of those sharing options. They can be a little detailed, but there's a lot of options around how to secure that sharing properly.
There's two different ways that you can initiate a share. A personal preference, I like to put all my stuff that I'm sharing in a folder called shared. Joe does something very similar where it's like sharing is caring or something like that, a folder there. It just makes it easy for me to remember anything that I put in here. I put it in here because my intention was to share it out with a bunch of people, whether they be inside my university or outside of my university. You can also do this through the web. So if I go into my shared folder here, I can click on a file and I can click share. And you're going to see this dialog box here. You'll see the same experience if you use File Explorer. So if I right click on a file and I go into OneDrive and I select share, notice you're going to have the same, it looks the same. And this is one thing I really like about the consistency that Microsoft brought to this is this same box, these drop down options, everything that's here is identical to the one that's here. Now, in our situation, the default has been configured to say only people that I specifically put in this box are going to be allowed to look at this file. That's going to ensure that the recipient of the share has to verify their identity. And you can do this with anybody. Joe, you don't have to be a member of the same university, right, to do that?
No, it can be, out to another university, out to a personal email account of some sort. You're going to get that same capability.
Yeah. If you click this box, you'll see that there are several other options that you can do here. You can share with specific people. You can share with anybody in the world. This would be like an anonymous link that anybody on the planet could look at. You can share it with people who are only inside of your university. So a very common request that we get is, hey, I need to make something and put it online, and I need to password protect it so that only people who work here can see it. Well, OneDrive kind of does that out of the box. If you say people in my organization and click this, then that ensures that only people who have a valid login for our company or our university would be able to log in and see that file. So we're going to go with specific people. And you also have this option here is, do you want the recipient to be able to edit the file, or do you want them to just have the ability to view it? And if it were a Word document, well, in this case, it is a Word document, you could even share it in a way where they couldn't actually edit the document itself, but they could do a review of the document and they could use the commenting function that's built into Word to leave comments. Very common with peer-reviewed articles that you're sharing amongst other folks so that they can leave their thoughts and critique the document with you. So I'm going to go ahead and apply this. You can also quickly access that edit function right here by clicking the pencil. So the pencil is going to say can edit and can view, and then you can dig down even deeper into those link settings like we were looking at just a second ago. I'm going to type in Joe. And I'm going to send this document directly to Joe. So Joe, you should receive, I mean, we're kind of relying on the cloud here, which can take a minute, but I'm going to send you that link, and you should receive something here in a couple of minutes that allow you to edit that document. While we're waiting on that email to go through, I'm going to hover over this document and show you what Microsoft calls the file card. So the file card is this little card right here. You're only going to get that when you're looking at Office, or I'm sorry, at OneDrive online. But the file card is really, really helpful. When you receive a document or you receive a share, you can hover over it and you can see about how long it's going to take you to read it. But most importantly, you get these viewer metrics. This is what I was telling you earlier in the intro slide, is the ability to see how many people have looked at this file. Now, I'm the only one who's ever looked at this file because I just created it. But if I click on that, I'm going to see I now have 2 viewers. Well, just a second ago, it was only 1 viewer. Joe, I assume that means you got in.
I got in. I opened it.
So
I'm in that file now.
So I got
Ready to collaborate.
confirmation. Yeah, he just dropped a screenshot in the chat that shows that he received that link and email. And I got confirmation that he saw it before he even told me, because I can tell that a new person has viewed that file. I have 2 unique viewers who have viewed this document a total of 2 times. Now, if I open this document, I'm going to click. I know we said earlier that we had the waffle up here. Well, these 3 little dots, these are called meatballs. And there's meatballs over here. There's meatballs all over the place throughout all of Office 365. So we always tell our agents, anytime that you are looking for more settings or you're looking for more options, look for the meatballs because there's probably something hidden behind those meatballs that's going to make your life a little bit easier. I'm going to go ahead and open this inside of the Microsoft Word desktop app. Now, the first thing that you're going to see is up here on the top right-hand corner. It tells me that Joe is currently inside of this document working on it. So this is that collaborative authoring capability that you get with the cloud. I also see where Joe is. I can see that he's right there. And if I hover over his cursor, let me see if I can get that to come back up again. Yep. So I see Joe's cursor is right there. So Joe, can you move down a couple of lines? Maybe.
Yeah, working on it. Let me refresh this. Jump in. See me a little bit lower.
Yep.
I'm now over in the
There you're
corner
down
of
there.
the first paragraph. There we go.
Gotcha. Okay. So this is very responsive. Let's try this again. Joe, can you move down to where it says senior designer? I see you're in the middle, and now I see you moving down. So I can see almost in real time where Joe is at inside of this document. He could start editing text. I can edit text with him, and we can work on this document together. This is a really great way to kind of like, I like to use this when I share something with somebody and I want them to kind of like look at it over my shoulder. Like if, you know, we've been hybrid or remote for so long now that, and the world is so different that you lose that ability to have somebody come in and kind of like look over your shoulder. You call them into your office and say, hey, I want you to take a look at this with me. This is a great way to do that. You can actually give them access to the file and drop them inside of it so that you can all collaborate on it together. And again, remember, this is because this is Microsoft OneDrive. This is my file that I gave Joe access to it. It doesn't belong to Joe. It belongs to Dwayne, but Joe has been granted access so that he can work on it with me. Now, as Joe's changing it, and I've given Joe edit access, which means I have some trust in you, Joe. Are you going to ruin my file? Don't ruin my
Maybe.
file. um, I want to call out this stuff up here. So this little box is called autosave. Autosave, if you're used to using a network share, you know, on a file server, you've got like an X drive or a Z drive or whatever your university might refer to it as, you might not ever see that box turned on. That box is only enabled if you're using a cloud storage location like Microsoft OneDrive or Microsoft Teams. It works very well inside of Microsoft Office. What that does is as we're editing and we start typing, so I don't like this paragraph, so I'll just delete that entire paragraph. And you're going to see it says saving. And when I click out of that, oops, let me click over here. It will be done and it will make a new version. There it goes. It says saved. It's made a new version of that document. Maybe I don't know. Joe, you like to stay up late. Maybe you stayed up too late, started making some bad decisions and started working in my document and forgot exactly what we were doing. And you deleted a paragraph or a page. And I didn't notice. Well, I come in the next day, fire up my computer for work, and my document does not look how it ought to. Well, thankfully, Office to the rescue and OneDrive to the rescue. This is one of the least intuitive menus you'll ever see. Right here, if you click on the title of the document, I don't know why it's so hidden like this, but it is. If you click on the title of the document, you actually get a drop down, and this right here is going to be your best friend. If you click on version history, you're going to see every single time that this document was modified. So it was modified at 229, which was just now. It was modified at 228. And here's the original of when it was modified yesterday. I can click open version. And now I have two Microsoft Word windows. And I can look at these two documents side by side. And I can see the changes that were made. And I can revert this document. I can compare it. to the original document, this is what we really, I mean, this is the meat and potatoes of what we call file resiliency. This means that even though you've given some trust out to somebody to work on this file with you, you still have a lot of things working behind the scenes to make sure that that file is protected and that you can go back in time and you can look at it. Joe, this is a little different than like a regular backup, right?
It's interesting we're talking about warp, but you talked about going back in time is something that you're used to in a traditional file share is your administrators likely have some type of backup schedule that occurs a couple times a day where you might produce a document in the middle of the day in between backup schedules and you delete it, you may never get it back. Um, or sometimes you might overwrite a file. Sometimes is like the worst thing that happens instead of even deleting it. This is making new versions, recoverable copies with the changes that you can revert to. And out of the box, we get 500 versions for every file and for every file type, not necessarily just Word documents, but any file that lives in your OneDrive will have a version history as you make changes and edits to it.
500. And yeah, and they're not on a schedule. They're based on activity. So if the document hasn't been edited in a week, we're not going to make backups of a document or versions of a document that has no changes in it. But as soon as somebody fires up that document again and starts working on it, that's when the cloud is going to recognize that changes are being made and it's going to make a new version for you. And 500 is a lot. I mean, it sounds like a lot, but Joe, we've got some that you and I have worked on that we're approaching a couple thousand versions.
Yeah, I mean, it's the file's been around a few years and we're
Yeah.
in there often. So, we've gone over that 500, but it just rolls off the last 500 versions are kept. And that if there's a need, that can be raised up to like 50,000 if you really, really need it.
Yeah. While we're talking about file versions, I wanted to show one more avenue that you could get to that. There's a couple different ways. Like I said here, if you click the title and you go to version history inside of the desktop version of Word, if you look at the file online, one of the things that I really like to do is I like to use this search box up here, so I can just type in version history and it comes up, and I'll see the version history here. You get a little bit, it's more or less the same, but you get a little flyout here. And then let me close out here. If I have File Explorer open and I'm looking at the file using Windows File Explorer, and this works on Mac as well, you can right mouse click on the file, and underneath the OneDrive menu, you're going to see version history, and you can see the version history there as well. So in that one file, one place mentality, you have multiple ways to consume this file. Web, you can do it in Teams, you can do it in the desktop version of Word, you can do it in File Explorer. All of those things are going to give you access to those same features. A little bit different look, but more or less the same features, which is super duper important.
And if you restore a version, an old version, it just moves that to the top of that version history list, it becomes the latest version, and it pushes what was the current version to the previous version. So you still have what you were working on before you switched to the old version available.
Yep. And the takeaway there is there's safety in the cloud here. Unlike anything that you could get on a regular file share, in our semi-professional opinion, right? So we've been doing this for a little while. All right, so moving on, we're going to talk about email attachments. Oh gosh, these are such a time sink. I have seen and heard some stories. I'm sure everybody can kind of commiserate here with me, where you're working on a document with some peers and they're emailing it back and forth. You send it out to 5 people. They make 5 changes. They all respond to you with their changes. And now you're trying to reconcile 5 new documents into one document. And then you send it back out and for another round of reviews, and it's just, wow, it's a lot of effort. So if the file is hosted in OneDrive, You're already there. You're already there. You can use the same menu of attach file, but rather than going down and browsing your computer for the file, you can select a file that you've recently been working on inside of your OneDrive. So if I choose that same document that Joe and I were just working on, look what I get. I get the option to share a link to that file rather than attaching a copy. And Microsoft is trying to kind of help you here because they actually call it out and say, everyone receives a separate copy of this file. And that's how you get into that vicious cycle of reviewing and editing and initials and versions and stuff like that. So I'm going to go ahead and click this and say share a link. Now, you're going to get some tips from Outlook. It's going to point out that you can actually modify the permissions of this while you're in Outlook. This is wonderful. This means you don't have to remember like, oh, I need to go to office.com and log into OneDrive and change the permissions. You can do all of that right here from within Outlook. So I'm going to email this to a very famous man named Jean-Luc Picard. And I'm also going to go to Christopher Pike. And so I want them to review this project file. Now, when I click the little down arrow here, I can change the permissions of this file. These are the same options that you were getting in the share menu from office.com or from OneDrive on your computer. But one of the things that I like that's really convenient about this is remember the option of specific people where you had to punch in specific people? Well, you've kind of already done that. You've put them on the to line. Those are the specific people. And so you can just say recipients can view or recipients can edit, and you're done. So recipients can view, and I'm finished. And that is so much more convenient than, like I said, going through that vicious cycle of sharing files back and forth. So I'll say, please check this document. I can't type today, Joe. And fire it off. And so that's it. I'm done. Whenever they work on that file, I'm going to get that same exact feature set that I had when I shared it with Joe. Let me refresh, hover over. I've got my file card. Now I see that people are viewing this document. If Captain Picard comes to work and he sees the email from me that he got from OneDrive or Captain Pike, they'll be able to open up that file and work on it. And that one file is living right here. I'll still get the collaborative editing. I'll get the track changes. I'll get the versions. I'll get all of those things that that really are going to make sure that my life is a little bit simpler. I'm not juggling a bunch of files, and my files are safe. All right, so we're going to do one more trick with OneDrive before we move over into Microsoft Teams. We're going to show you how to solicit, not solicit, request files from other people. I'm going to create a folder, and I'm going to call this conference posters. We'll do 2022 conference posters. Create. So now that I've got a file created, and one important thing to realize about the feature I'm about to show you is this is only available in Office Online. So you must go to office.com and use the web-based version of OneDrive. If you click the meatballs, you're going to get the option here to request files. What kind of files am I requesting? I'm going to say, please upload your poster. And I'll click next. So I can copy this link, or I can distribute this link to a distribution list or a few people via email by putting in their name. I find it a little bit easier to just copy the link. And then I can author the email however I want inside of Microsoft Outlook. So I am going to email this to Joe. Again, I can't type today. So I'm going to send this link to Joe. And while he's playing around with that, I am going to demonstrate what this looks like. So I'm going to open up a private window, which means I'm not logged into office.com anymore. If I go to office.com, I'm not signed in. If I paste in that link, this is what the world would see. If you were to create this request files link and distribute it out to anybody, they would be able to access this page and they would only see the ability to browse their computer and upload a file. So if I upload this image, it's going to ask me to put in my name. So I'm going to put in James Kirk, click upload. So hello, James Kirk, your file was uploaded, and Joe has also dropped a picture in the chat there so that you can see what this looks like as well. So now if I go to my OneDrive, I'm going to do this right on my computer here. 2022 conference posters. I can see, I'm going to switch the view to detail. I can see that 2 files have been uploaded and it automatically prefixed the file with the first name and last name that the person entered when they filled out the upload form. Now, you have no visibility to the other files that are located inside of my folder. It's only visible to me, and I'm going to receive an email whenever that file gets uploaded. So you are going to get some notification to let you know, like, hey, you got a file waiting for you to check out. I have noticed a little bit of a delay in that, so I'm not going to lean on the fact that it's actually going to show up while we're on the demo. I have seen in real life it can take, I don't know, maybe an hour or so, but you are going to get a notification that you are getting a file upload. Joe, do you got anything else you want to talk about with OneDrive? I mean, I know that was like a fire hose of information. Hopefully it was useful bits and pieces though for everybody.
I think there's one more we should cover real quick. That is back on the resiliency. We had versions, but what about if I delete something? What happens if something gets deleted in the cloud?
That's a great point. There again, this is a web only feature. So if I go into my, whoops, let me back up here, go into my conference posters, and I'm just going to delete these. Poof. There they go. They're gone. On OneDrive for the web, you'll have a recycle bin. That recycling bin is going to have anything that you've deleted. It's going to tell you how long ago you deleted it, who deleted it, and where it used to come from. So you'll be able to restore and recover those files inside the cloud-based recycle bin. The cloud-based recycle bin has a finite amount of retention. It is 93 days of retention. That's roughly 3 months, 31 times 3. So if the file has been gone for more than 93 days, you'll not be able to recover it from your recycle bin. So if somebody deleted the file, I guess we're kind of leaking over into Teams land here a little bit. You'll notice that Microsoft Teams and Microsoft OneDrive have very similar features. We're kind of going to get into that here in a second. But if a file, let's say, I don't know, you decided to actually delete it from the recycling bin. So I'm going to delete it. Like on a computer, this would be similar to right-clicking on the recycling bin and emptying the trash bin out. Like that's like permanently deleted, right? In OneDrive, not so much. If you look down here, we've got can't find what you're looking for, check the second stage recycling bin. So if I go into the second stage recycling bin, I will see files that were cleared from there. This is one extra layer of protection that you get. If you are working in something with a team where a whole bunch of people had access to the recycling bin, they could delete it from the recycling bin, but only an owner of the team could actually go into the second stage recycling bin and get that file back. So you've got a few things working for you here to make sure that your files stay safe. All right, so we're going to move into our next segment, which is going to be collaborating on files in Microsoft Teams. This is going to be probably pretty short because most of the stuff that we showed you in OneDrive actually applies to Microsoft Teams as well. The primary difference is the scope of who has access to what. When I created that folder inside of OneDrive and I have that Word document in there, by default, I'm the only one who can access it. I had to decide to send that file out to Joe so that he could have access to it. Teams is a lot different. If you're using Teams at your university, like I said, there's a whole lot to unpack in Teams. We're only going to talk about files today. But if you've got a team at your university, somebody's put some files inside of there, it's very important to remember that where OneDrive is your files, Teams is y'all's files. Any person who is a member of that team is an equal owner of that file. The way you grant people permission to files inside of Microsoft Teams is you add them as a member to the team, and that pulls them in to that collective, that common workspace that everybody has, so that you can all work on those files together. The collaborative authoring, that's also a part of it. That's just like OneDrive. You get a lot more storage though. you get a lot more storage. Every single team that's created by default is going to have an allocation of 25 terabytes. This is an education specific benefit. The enterprise world, they don't see it like this. The enterprise world that, I think it's 1 terabyte, Joe, in EDU, big time difference, right? Big time benefit. Our researchers, archiving stuff, we've got a bunch of old data that we need to move and get rid of it or put it somewhere that we feel like it's protected. Well, throw it in a team. We do that all the time. Like I said before, you have the same feature set as Microsoft OneDrive. So you're going to notice a lot of similarities. You're going to notice a lot of things because OneDrive and Teams are kind of like cousins. They're using the same file platform, the same storage system. So they're going to function and look the same, with that exception of, like I said, the scope of who has access to what. And we're going to show you, because they're cousins, we're going to show you a really, really cool way to become a little bit closer to those files that you're working on inside of Microsoft Teams by using Microsoft OneDrive and connecting them together. So let's go ahead. I'm going to open up my Teams. Inside of Microsoft Teams, we have channels. Channels are workspaces where you can carve up conversation. You can have different discussion threads, posts and things like that. This is kind of like the social media type aspect, I guess, of Microsoft Teams. Inside of each channel, you're going to have up here, you're going to have what are called tabs. The first tabs that you get, that you'll always get, are number 1, posts, where you can have those conversations. But number 2, you're going to have files. I'm going to go off the rails just a little bit, Joe, and talk about when do you need a channel? Can you, we see people create channels just for a place to put stuff. Do you think that's appropriate?
We like to say as if you only had the general channel and you had a very, very chatty, very popular team, and all the conversations were happening in the general channel, it might be hard to follow what was going on, and likely you're going to have multiple concepts you're thinking of, multiple projects that team's working on. That's when you would move those threads, those discussions into a channel. So really, channels are about compartmentalizing conversations and thoughts. And while we're talking files here, it's not really best meant for just a separate place to put files. We can create subfolders in files in general channel. You can create subfiles, subfolders, move your files in there, sort them like you would on a traditional hard drive. But channels are really meant for a conversation thread to move in there. And there can be files that come along with that project or work that you're doing that really just make those for conversations.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. If you had 500 people in a team and you only had one chat room to talk in, it would be a lot of chaos, a lot of static, a lot of noise, right? It would be difficult to find what it is that you were looking for. So channels are a way to compartmentalize conversation. They're not really great at, I personally wouldn't make a channel just for a place to put files, because the files tab in the general channel is great for that. And if you wanted to make a new folder, you can totally do that. So you don't need to use channels like they're folders. Use channels like they're chat rooms. They're a new location to talk about a particular topic. So I'm going to go into the files tab of our Cloudy Chat channel, and we've got a spreadsheet in here that's very important to us. This is our budgeting spreadsheet. There's a few different ways that you can open up files inside of Teams. I'm going to cover 3 of them real quick. If I click this file, I'm going to say open in Teams. You can actually open the Excel file directly inside of Microsoft Teams. This is using the Office Online version of Microsoft Excel, but it's using it inside of Teams, so I didn't have to switch out into another app. So this supports all the same things as desktop version of Excel and Office, Office Online, co-authoring, versioning, all of those things are all going to happen here as well. If I go out of this file, back up, and I click the meatball again, I can say open in my browser. That's going to kick me out to my browser. So now I can look at this file in my browser and I can look at Teams side by side. So if I had 2 screens, I could put one here and one here, and that would be really nice to be able to pay attention to maybe a conversation that I'm having with someone while I'm also working on a file at the same time. And then the next way that you can open up these files is through the meatball menu. If you go open, you can say open an app. This is going to open up the full desktop version of Excel on my computer, and it's going to bring me into that file. We still have the one file, one place concept happening here. This file exists inside of Microsoft Teams in one place, and I'm using multiple different ways to access it. Another way that can't demo it right now, but another really great way to do this is by using a smartphone. You can pull up Office, download Office on your smartphone. It's free. Connect Teams. You can still open up these files and do the same stuff. You can open up a file on your phone and edit it while you're working with other people. It sounds kind of like an edge case, but we have actually had to do that before, and it's very convenient. I see Joe's here with me now working on this file, and I get the same experience that I had before where he's moving around inside of it. Autosave is working for me. I can click down and go into version history, and I can see all the different versions that were generated as we've worked on this document together. I can see in real time what he's doing. And in some of the newer versions of Excel, if you go to the review tab, you'll have show changes. This is bonkers levels of granularity of who did what. I can see that Joe specifically edited D8, and I can see what it used to be and what it is now. That is so cool. Like, that's track changes on steroids, right, Joe? I mean, it's very cool. That is also available online if you're looking at a file online. So if I open up major programs here, you're going to see the catch up button. If you click the catch up button and do show changes, you're going to see the same exact feature set there. This is really helpful for universities or places who may not have Office licensed for use on the desktop. That does incur cost. So the web-based version is actually pretty powerful, and I've used it several times to get some serious work done. So definitely would recommend checking it out. All right, so I'm going to show you my favorite way to work with files inside of Teams. I don't know about y'all, but I'm pretty used to opening up File Explorer, clicking on files, double clicking on stuff, using my computer like I've always used my computer. So I'm going to go up a level I'm in Cloudy Chat. I'm looking at files here inside of Teams, and I want to point this out. This is magical button. This button is probably going to be, I would say, a key takeaway from this webinar as far as it relates to working with files in the cloud. If you push this button, it's going to add a shortcut to my OneDrive, and it says added one shortcut to your My Files. I'm going to open up my OneDrive online, and I've got a new folder here called Cloudy Chat. If I look at File Explorer on my computer, I've got a new folder here called Cloudy Chat. and take a look at that little icon on there. It's got that little chain link icon. This means that that folder is actually a shortcut to a team, to a specific place inside of a team. If I double click that, I see the same files, right? Budgets, screenshots, test document. If I go into budget, I've got the same exact feature set. Excuse me, I have the same exact feature set that I have with OneDrive, where I've got files on demand. I haven't downloaded this file to my computer yet. If I double click on this Excel file, I'm just in it. I didn't even have to open Teams. I don't have to feel confined. Like I feel like a lot of our users find it I don't want to say clunky, but it's not what they're used to, having to every single time they want to edit a file, they have to go into Teams, find the team, find the channel, go into the files tab, find the document, click on the document. You could still do the same thing that you've always done with File Explorer. What's the difference really between having OneDrive here and then or having a mapped network drive there? Well, I can tell you this one's better in our semi-professional opinion. This one is a lot better because that means that you have access to it without VPN. You have that versioning capability. You have that recycle bin. You have that sharing. You have all of those things that you get with OneDrive, except this file is located in Teams. We're still editing it together. It's a very powerful solution. So again, one key takeaway: add shortcut to OneDrive. It will make your life a whole lot easier.
There's one older way that you might have been using previously that you'll see up there called sync. And that's something that has been around and capable for a number of years. You may have already be syncing a team or a channel in a team. If you are doing that and find the shortcut a little cleaner to use, like we do, you can first remove that sync. You want to disable the syncing of. You don't want to go in and delete the files or delete that sync. You want to go into the OneDrive app under accounts, and you'll find that where you're doing all the synchronizations, and you'll want to disable that sync. Give that a little bit of time to stop syncing. You'll see that previous sync folder location go away, vanish. When that's done and complete, then you can go add that shortcut to OneDrive.
In recent months, the OneDrive app has gotten a little bit smarter. And like Joe's saying, you can't have a sync and a shortcut to the same place. The OneDrive agent won't let you do that. But they've added a little bit of intelligence to it recently, where if you try to create a shortcut to a place that you've already been syncing in the past, like a couple of years ago, like this was the only option. This was the only way to achieve what we've been talking about. The OneDrive app is smart enough now to say, hey, we've noticed that you already have a sync here. Do you want to remove that sync? And it'll make it a little bit easier. But like Joe is saying, don't go into the sync and then just highlight the files and click delete. Because if you do that, it's gonna delete the files from Teams because you told Teams to delete the files. so don't do that. You want to make sure you properly unsync.
And one pro tip we'll give you on shortcuts is that you can rename them. So we find it helpful to kind of call out where those shortcuts are inside of our OneDrive, and we'll typically add like an underscore to the beginning of that shortcut to kind of bring it to the top of your list of files in your OneDrive. A little easier to see. There is an icon change, a little link on those, so you know that those are the shortcuts. But that way, it's kind of quicker to get to them. You know, okay, that's connected to a team.
Yeah, I like to throw a underscore on the front of it. Let me go ahead and close out of this Excel file here. See if we can get that to update live. I like to put an underscore on the front of it. Another thing that you can do is you can create a folder. So you can make a folder and call it shortcuts. And you can actually click the three dots. I like to do this through the web. Joe, I don't know if it's necessary, but I feel like it's the proper way. So I like to go to the web and I'll say move to, and I'll say shortcuts, and I'll move my shortcut into a shortcut folder. I just feel like that. I don't know. It's personal preference. You don't have to do that, but I just feel like it's a little bit easier. Not sure how quickly all that's going to oh, I have a file open right now inside. So that file is currently locked, which would actually be our PowerPoint. So we'll keep trucking ahead. So now we're going to talk about Microsoft bookings. We've got spot on 30 minutes, trying to be very respectful of everybody's time. We are going to stay on the call once the recording is over. In case anybody has any questions, we can turn on cameras and microphones. If you have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat while we talk. Microsoft Bookings is a scheduling portal. It is a web-based scheduling portal that allows you to create a little business. It's very important to remember or understand rather that Microsoft Bookings was originally built for small businesses, a barber, a salon, a masseuse, different kinds of small businesses that offered services. You could go to their website, you could click on a link, you could select a service that you want. You could select from different staff, maybe it's a barber shop with 3 different barbers. You can pick the barber that you like, and then you can see an availability of when you can book an appointment with them. Microsoft has brought bookings over into the education sector. However, knowing how extension works, extension still kind of does operate like a little small business. You offer services, you offer consultations, you have plant clinics, you do nutritional evaluations, you work with your clientele and you go look at their farmland or whatever it is that you might be doing. You are offering services to clients. So bookings is very, very applicable in the world of extension. So like everything else, we've been saying this several times throughout the presentation, you're going to get started with bookings at office.com. You're going to create a public scheduling portal. It doesn't have to be, I guess I should refine that. It doesn't have to be public. It is possible to create a bookings page that is restricted to only people within your university. This would be great for like a faculty member who's offering office hours to students, student advisors that are interacting with students. You want to make sure that they are actually a part of your university, right? So that's very important. You can give your clientele access to services and to various experts that you offer. You can create a bookings portal just for yourself for things that you do, but I kind of think I'd like to see a bookings page for an entire county extension office. Here's all the stuff that you can come get from our county extension office, book an appointment to drop off a soil sample or something like that. And you can protect your time while also making yourself more available. This is one of the really interesting components of bookings is it's connected to your work calendar. And it's connected to your work calendar in the sense that it knows when you're available and when you're not. And so it's not going to let people book an appointment when you already have something on your calendar in that time slot. And to go even further, you can even rein in exactly when specific services are available. Maybe you only do soil samples on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So you could define that so that nobody could book you outside of Tuesdays and Thursdays. And if you don't see bookings in office.com, you'll probably need to reach out to an administrator at your university or put in a ticket or however your university works. It is a Office 365 A3 license is what you would want to inquire about or greater. And I don't, the A1 is a free license. The A3 has a cost associated with it, but that's what gets you like Office on your computer and Windows on your desktop. And there's a lot going on inside of it. Bookings is not just the only thing. But there is a little bit of a cost associated with that for your school, which in our case is absorbed at a central level, and all of our extension agents have A5 licenses to be able to operate how they need to. So let's get started. We're going to head over, like I said, to office.com, clean up my mess here a little bit. Close all my stuff out. We're going to click on that waffle, and we're going to go down to the Bookings app. This is going to be an overview. We're not going to dig into the nitty-gritty of Microsoft Bookings. I'm just going to go through the setup wizard and show you what this looks like and kind of do a demonstration. So I'm going to create a new calendar, and I'm going to create it from scratch. And we're going to call this the Marion County Extension Office. We're going to define our business hours. Our office is open from 8 to 5, which is fine. I'm going to invite Joe to be a member or a fellow staff member of my county extension office. And this is where you would set up services that you offer. So we're going to start, our first service is going to be called Plant Clinic. And we're going to say this is a 1-hour long appointment. And we offer plant clinics on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but we only like to do them in the afternoons. So I'm going to make this service only available from, not at lunch, but from lunch until 4 p.m. And this is a in-person thing. You got to bring me something, right? So this is not a Teams meeting. Bookings has the capability to automate online meetings for you as well. So I'm going to uncheck, make this a Teams meeting and update that service. Now notice, see what it says here. You'll be able to add more services and edit them once you get through this wizard. This is just like the first run thing. This is not anything permanent. You can definitely come back and fix all this stuff later. And this is that visibility that I talked about. Who do I want to be able to visit my bookings page? Well, I want anybody, right? I'm serving my county. The people who live in my county don't have accounts inside of my university. So I need to open this up and make this public. We're going to create my calendar and we're just going to chill out for a second and shouldn't take but, I don't know, 15 seconds or more. So what this is doing in the background is it's creating a calendar and a mailbox. And that mailbox is being connected to my calendar and Joe's calendar because I added him as a staff member. Here's my public link that I can use. So I'm going to click share and copy it. And if I go, we're going to open up a private browser window and paste in that link. This is what it would look like to the world out of the box. So you can select a plant clinic service. You have the ability to select the staff who are available in that business. Now, Joe doesn't show up yet because Joe has not accepted the invitation to become staff. That's an important part of this process, is there's a little bit of a handshake. Joe just dropped a link in the chat. I think, let me open that up so that people who are watching this recording will actually be able to see these pictures that you're putting in the chat. So Joe has received this invitation from Bookings. He has to accept it. When you add somebody to a Bookings calendar, it doesn't just like take over their calendar. It doesn't just allow them to be, scheduled by anybody in the world. That would not be a good situation. So there is that handshake that you have to go through where Joe has to say, yes, I would like to become a member of your Bookings page so that people can book stuff with me. And again, if we're following the county extension office example here, you'd probably want all of your agents added to this bookings page, and their different specialties could be tied to different services that you offer as an extension office. So once Joe accepts that invite, he would then show up as a staff member. So I'm going to shrink this down and we're going to go into the bookings calendar or the bookings page itself, and we're going to start making some changes, right? So I'm not, there's more things that we do, Joe. We don't just do plant clinics, right? So when you drop into bookings, you have this navigation system up here on the left. Now, we found that it's a little counterintuitive, but the thing that we like to do is we actually like to start on the bottom with business information. That's where you're going to punch in the name of your quote unquote company, the hours of operation. You can schedule breaks in there. Then you're going to move up and you're going to talk about, okay, what kind of services does my company offer? We do nutrition assessments. So that might be a service that we want to add. You're also going to add staff. So that's where you would go in and start adding your agents. And customers is just going to be kind of a database of people who have booked with you before. That will build itself out over time so that you could kind of have an idea of how many people you've conducted business with. And then your bookings page, that's where you can manipulate the settings of the page itself, kind of change a little bit. It's not super customizable, but there's a little bit that you can do. And then you can view an overall calendar, which is what we're looking at here. So I'm going to go into business information. Starting at the top, we've got Marion County Extension Office. We could put in where that office is located, the address. Edge wants to track me and figure out where I'm at, which I could totally allow it to do, but I'm going to not right now. This is also important. Anybody who books with the company, this is where the emails are going to go. I think it would probably be advisable to set this to something like a shared mailbox or a distribution list. That way, you know, if you're operating with multiple people in your office, more people have visibility to the comings and goings of Microsoft bookings. If you have a website, you can put your website in here. So this is our website. You can specify your business type. This is irrelevant. I wouldn't even bother with it. You can upload a business logo. So maybe your extension office has a logo, your county has a symbol, you know, you can put that in there. And then we can work on our hours. One thing that's not super apparent or clear is you can add multiple time slots per day. So if your office is closed from noon to 1, then you'll want to go in here and change your operating hours from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. and then use this little plus sign here to add a day. I'm sorry, to add a line and say we're open from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. And do that for all 5 days, and that would give your overall availability for your business would only be from 8 to 12 and 1 to 5. Nobody could book any appointment, no matter what the service is, outside of those hours. And again, following the trend that it's not super intuitive, as you scroll down to the bottom, you might think you're done. Just kidding. You need to scroll up to the top and click the save button here. Now that we've got that set, we're going to start talking about our services. We already created one service when we went through the initial bookings, you know, creation wizard, but we do something new, or, you know, we have a new service that we do, or we have a different service that we offer. So I'm going to go ahead and create that. And that service is going to be called a nutrition consultation. How long is this service going to be, or is this going to be an online only service? Maybe you offer virtual consultations. This is a wonderful way to give people the option to schedule a meeting with you. You can add an online meeting to this, and maybe I'll put in parentheses virtual. And this is going to schedule we're going to make this also a 1 hour option here. And then buffer time. Buffer time is for your health, right, Joe? How many of you have ever had back-to-back-to-back meetings?
Hurt your brain.
That's not good for your brain. Yeah, that's not good for your brain. Use the buffer time. It will help you a lot. Buffer time is going to set it so that it's going to automatically add however much time you want to the front end of the meeting and however much time you want to the tail end of the meeting. I'm going to do 15 minutes.
So if somebody were to prep work, even you want to be prepared.
Oh yeah,
just making sure you got time.
Yeah. So the meeting invite that it sends to the customer is going to start at the time that the customer selected, but your calendar invite that you get is going to be 15 minutes ahead. So it's going to give you 15 minutes of prep. You'll be able to go in and look at the appointment, get an understanding of who you're working with and what you're doing, and then you also have 15 minutes after the meeting to decompress if you need to. If there's a fee associated with it, you can define that fee. So maybe a nutrition consultation's $40. There's no like money changing hands here. This isn't to collect anything. This is just to inform the person who's scheduling the appointment that there's a cost associated with it. I'm going to say that I do this for free. I'm going to assign some staff to this. So Joe doesn't do nutrition consultations, just Dwayne does. So I'm going to select myself. And maybe there's some custom fields, some additional information that I want to collect from the customer. I need to have their email address because this is an online appointment. They have to give you an email to send the appointment to. So I'm going to make the default customer email required. And maybe I'm going to add in a custom field. And this is where you could collect some of those required demographics that I know all the extension agents are looking to get for your reporting. So you could do a drop-down menu or an open text question. So I could just say, what's your favorite food? Or I'm going to do color. So just something totally random. Option 1 is red. Golly, typing is hard today, Joe. Green and blue. Obviously, this is just a joke. So I'm going to save those changes. And so I can make that question required. Like, you've got to tell me the answers to this information before you can book an appointment with me. And under notifications, we're going to dance around this one for a little bit, but there is some integrated text messaging capabilities to text the client some reminders. It's a little cloudy at the moment on how Microsoft is going to handle that moving forward. If you're really curious about that, if that's really important to you, I'd encourage you to reach out to us and we'll try to give you as much detail as we can about it. You can also customize the reminders. So one wonderful thing about bookings is it's going to stay on top of this appointment for your client. They're going to get emails to let them know, like, hey, just a heads up, you've got an appointment coming up in 1 day. And you can even add more aggressive reminders if you wanted to, like 45 minutes, 30 minutes prior to, send them an email to let them know you've got an upcoming appointment with me. I would like for you to show up. So that's important too, right? So I'm going to save the changes here. And one thing that I forgot to point out that I want to go back into, under staff, so let me save the changes. Under staff, when you bring somebody into your bookings page, by default, it is going to, let me circle this here. By default, it is going to respect what they have on their calendar already. So it's not going to allow a client to pick a time that I already have something booked. This is, if you use your calendar, then this is right up your alley. I put everything I do on my calendar. If I'm going on vacation, I will block out the week that I'm going on vacation on my calendar. So let's actually go ahead and do that. So I am going to be on vacation. Oh, look, I already have a vacation, Joe. I wish that was real. So I'm going to be pretend hiking the Appalachian Trail next week. So that is going to affect my availability on the bookings page. So nobody would be able to book me next week. So let's go into the bookings page that we had open, and we're going to refresh it. So now I have 2 services. I have a nutrition consultation that I can pick from, and I have that original plant clinic that I can pick from. When I pick nutrition consultation, there's only 1 staff member I can choose. When I pick plant clinic, I can choose from either Dwayne or Joe. That's helpful. If you have different people who specialize in different things, that is an option available to you. If you don't want people to be able to do that, you can go to the specific service that you're offering. And we can go to staff and we can turn off this little toggle that says don't allow them to pick anybody. They don't need to know who they're picking. They just need to know the service that they're picking, and we're going to assign it to anybody who's in the staff pool. And that's important to remember. Like for Plant Clinic, we'll go to assign staff, and I'll turn this off. Although Dwayne and Joe are still there. So what Bookings is going to do is it's going to look at both of our availability, and it's going to randomly pick one of us. A big desire in Microsoft Bookings land is the ability to schedule an appointment with multiple people. Unfortunately, Bookings does not do that right now. That's a big feedback item, though. I'm going to save that change. We'll go back over to my Bookings page and refresh it so that we can see what that change looks like. So now when I pick nutrition consultation, I can't select the staff that I want this to go to. Dwayne Hyatt, when we look at the service of nutrition consultation, when I look at assigned staff, Dwayne is the only one that's available. Because I'm the only one that's available, when you can book me is affected. So you can see that that week that I had on my calendar blocked off is all grayed out. Like you can't pick it, and it tells you there's no availability. So the earliest somebody could pick me would be tomorrow. And they could only pick me at 3:45 because that's at least 24 hours in the future. So it's by default not going to let somebody book you same day. Your day's probably already planned, right? When you wake up, you get ready to go. You don't want people dropping surprise appointments on your calendar less than 24 hours. So they can pick the 3:45 time slot. We'll scroll down and we'll put in James Kirk. And I think J. Kirk. I can put in address is optional. And remember that custom question that I asked? What's your favorite color? Well, he likes to wear a red. No, he likes to wear a yellow shirt, doesn't he? We'll go red because I didn't put yellow in there. And we'll click book. So this is going to set up that appointment. And this is another really wonderful thing for your client is this page right here is going to get sent to them in their email. And this gives them options where maybe something changes. They can reschedule the appointment, or they can cancel the appointment, or they can book a new appointment. So they can self-manage what they're doing themselves inside of Microsoft Bookings as far as how they schedule time with you. So, oops, I must have typed in the wrong email address, but that's okay. So let's go look at my calendar. There it is, dropped on my calendar. So I have a nutrition consultation. It's going to be virtual. If I double click on it, I'm going to have the Microsoft Teams information that automatically scheduled a Microsoft Teams meeting for me. And it sent that invite and that information to my client who made the appointment with me.
And that's going to have that extra information in there available.
Yes. Yeah. Whoops. Clicking too fast here. That's going to have that extra information. So what's your favorite color? It was red. All the custom fields are in here. So I get that 15 minutes ahead of time. This is important, is the time with the customer is actually from 3:45 to 4:45. I get my 15 minutes of buffer on the front side, and I get my 15 minutes of buffer on the tail end side. This gives me time to study and to understand what I'm doing and have that information that I've tried to collect from my client prior to actually getting into the meeting, so I'm prepared and ready to go. One way that I really like to use Bookings is I create a Bookings page for myself. So if I go, let me save these changes, back to all calendars. I'm going to create a new calendar from scratch. And I'm going to call my calendar Dwayne Hyatt. But I need to stop right here. We have seen in our organization somebody create a bookings calendar and they use their own name. And that has caused some confusion because people have looked up their name in the global address list and mistakenly picked the mailbox that's associated with bookings. They've added that to a team. They've sent emails to it. They've sent appointments to it, and it never makes it to the person because it's not a real person. It's just a bookings page. So one thing that we like to do is put in parentheses Microsoft bookings so that people understand this is not a real page. I'm going to select next. Actually, let me go back. One thing that I like to do for my personal bookings page, I don't know about y'all, but I don't like meetings that start at 8 o'clock in the morning. So I like to get ready. I like to get my brain right before I just turn on my computer and boom, I'm in a meeting. So I set my availability from 9 to 5. I'm not going to invite any staff because this is a bookings page that's just for me. And I offer 2 services on my bookings page. I'll offer a 30-minute meeting and I'll offer a 1-hour meeting. So I'm just going to leave this as is because all my meetings are online meetings. And I click update, I click next, and I want anybody anywhere to be able to do this. I'm going to create my calendar. Now, what this is going to do is this is going to create a whole nother quote unquote company, but it's just for Dwayne. And I don't know, it's probably very familiar, again, like the email attachment thing, or we're sending email attachments back and forth. We've probably all been in one of those scenarios where somebody says, hey, when can you meet? And you respond back with like 3 available times. And they respond back with, well, I can't do any of those times. You have anything else? Or you go and create a doodle poll, or you use Microsoft Find Time, or you use Cortana, or whatever it is that you do. You're trying to find times that people can book with you. And it's always at least 3 or 4 back and forth messages. Well, I really like to utilize bookings here for eliminating all that conversation. So I go into my services. I'm going to add a new service. I'm going to call this one 1-hour meeting.
Dwayne, what if you just copy that? Take advantage of that copy.
That's a good point. That's a good point. So you can duplicate a service, just boop, and we'll call this 1-hour meeting, and we'll bump the time to 1 hour from 30 minutes, and all the same settings are there because I duplicated a service. I'm going to go do that. And my bookings page, I can copy that link and we'll open it up right here. And now what I have is well, let me turn off the select staff. I forgot to do that. Go back into my services, edit, turn off that drop down. I'm the only one. So even if they did the drop down, they can only pick from one person. But we're gonna streamline this operation just a little bit by turning that off. So turn off that slider, refresh, that box should disappear. Eventually, there we go. So now we have that conversation happening, right? Hey, when can you meet? Well, click this link and figure it out. Click this link and book any time on my calendar that works for you. So this is a conversation saver. This is probably one of the most useful things that I use for bookings. I have an email link I have a link in my email signature that says book me. And anytime I ever get that question from somebody, that ask from somebody, I just respond and say, hey, click the book me link in my signature and pick whatever time works for you. Because my calendar is up to date and you're not going to be able to book me on that week that I'm out hiking the Appalachian Trail, right? That's not even a possibility. Or I've blocked my calendar off because I need some focus time or some study time. So this is a big takeaway for bookings that I feel like hopefully everybody likes. It is a conversation saver. And this point right here about protect your time while also making yourself more available. That's a big takeaway for me is this just eliminates a lot of conversation, a lot of back and forth. It streamlines your operation. It streamlines your little business.
One thing you can do in there real quick is you can export bookings information I think up to 4 months at a time. So you need to do this a few times during the year, but you can export that data. And you're going to get the service type. You're going to get the person that it was assigned to. You're going to get the custom questions. So that might be one way to kind of help you with some year-end reporting.
Yep. I know that the data is important. and the data is there, and you can get the data out. So that is a big part of this. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop the share. We hope that you enjoyed this webinar. If you like content like this, I'm gonna drop a link in the chat. Also say it out verbally. If you go to aka.ms/join Cloudy County, you can join our community that we have where we do these types of trainings on a monthly basis. It is open for all land-grant universities, all extension offices. Anybody who supports extension in any way is more than welcome to join us in Cloudy County. We started off with talking about Office 365 and moving our way into Teams, and we've been meeting for about 6 months now. So I'd love it if you joined us there. We feel like it's a really helpful community, and we hope that you find it helpful, and we're really looking forward to you guiding us on the kind of information that you like and the kind of training that you're looking for, and we're very happy to provide it. Joe, you got any last words?
No, it's been great to have everyone on the call, and appreciate you spending your afternoon with us.
Yep. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the recording, but if you have any questions, you want to come off mute or come on camera and talk to us, I'll be more than happy to hang out with you. But thank you, everybody. We really appreciate your time, and we appreciate you helping us wrangle the cloud.